you are listening to or watching the Filmcast. We're about to dive into Black Adam. I'm going to read the plot summary for Black Adam on IMDb. Nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of justice on the modern world. I want to start this review by reading one of the most depressing emails I've ever received at /filmcast@gmail.com.
Wow.
It's also a good email. It's a great email. This email comes in from Ryan, who writes in with the subject line, Black Adam, what is art? Ryan writes, I have listened to the Filmcast for 11 plus years, and there is no chance in hell Dave or Devindra liked Black Adam. So let me preemptively come to its defense. I ask you, gentlemen, must something be art for it to have intrinsic value? When I bite into a chocolate bar, I'm not biting into art, but I appreciate the shot of dopamine it delivers nonetheless. When I skydive, my brain's happy chemicals start flowing, and I feel alive. Black Adam was an objectively terrible movie. I recognize that. Nothing ever made sense. Every story beat felt safe and generic. Dwayne Johnson putting one of the worst acting performances of his career, and we even got a generic Skybeam. If Jeff defends the filmmaking, he should feel bad. But I have to tell you, a movie composed of nearly 100% CGI action scenes made the dopamine flow. And I certainly spent $25 on worse things to make the happy chemicals flow for 2 hours. In the dying movie industry, there's a place for dopamine delivery systems like Black Adam and for higher art like Tar and Moon Age Daydream. Let's embrace them all, end quote.
I like that moniker, dopamine delivery. Like that's what we should just label a lot of movies. Yeah.
So here's the question for you, Devindra Hardwar. Must something be art for it to have intrinsic value?
Wait. Before we get there, why did I get thrown under the bus?
We don't know.
What's funny, here's the thing. We've been doing this for so long now, right? People can basically write Filmcast fanfic, right? Like
it's they like often an AI model.
They often know, like they
yeah.
assume they know what our opinion's going to be, right?
Yes.
For every episode. Right?
I gotta say the one that our own friend Peter Soretta wrote about our review of the serial, the Avatar serial, was pretty top tier.
Yes,
pretty good.
It's very right on. It's very right on. So somebody heard into the future of what Jeff Kanata's review would be, and he's like, Jeff's going to defend this movie. Now,
I don't like the idea of like, you guys want movies to be art. Jeff doesn't give a shit about that.
Yes, I mean, Jeff, don't you worry about this big question of whether or not movies can be art. Let Devindra and David Chen handle that.
Did you enjoy the popcorn, Jeff?
Yeah. So, Devindra Hardwar, is Black Adam art? Let me put it this way.
I think that's the wrong question.
Let's assume it's not art.
Yeah.
Was it even, on Ryan's terms, an effective dopamine delivery system? What do you think, Devindra Hardwar?
Sure, because that's the bare minimum of anything. Watching, moving images flicker in front of my eyes, it delivers dopamine to me. You don't have to do anything. I read that letter earlier, and I thought, sure, you can like whatever you like. Even this listener is agreeing, like, there are so many things about this movie that are just objectively just kind of awful and bad. I don't think every movie has to be art, but I do think I will give movies the benefit of the doubt if they're trying something new, if they're trying to be different, if they're trying to push some boundaries. I've done that before. What was the thing we just talked about where Halloween Ends, I feel like is a messy movie, but it's doing some really interesting things, and I will give a movie credit for that. This movie is the exact opposite of something like that, right? Like, what if you do the most boring thing at every possible opportunity? And those are the kinds of movies that kind of hurt me the most, because you're wasting my time, you're going to be fine. Like, this listener didn't have to come in and defend this movie. It is the most popular movie starring, like, it's the biggest.
It's the most popular. It's the highest grossing movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yes. That's also called Black Adam. I don't know if you're.
It's also, there are a lot of qualifiers, but yeah,
it's done pretty well. It's done decently.
It's done really, really well. These movies don't need our defending. My thing is,
That's what the money's for.
Are you entertaining? You know, are you doing something interesting? And I don't think this movie ever really does. It's not the worst superhero movie I've seen. It's not the most boring or anything. But I think it is very indicative of my issues with The Rock as a movie star and kind of the way he produces things too. There's a really great breakdown of all this over at NPR and Pop Culture Happy Hour. Glenn Weldon is a comic book nerd, and he did a freaking thesis about like how like basically reverse engineering this movie around just making The Rock Black Adam. You're setting yourself up for failure because that's it, right? The latest version of Black Adam looks like The Rock, and The Rock was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll make that. This movie doesn't work on many levels just because I don't know who this character is. I don't understand him. He's apparently a very angry anti-hero, anti-Superman who's mad at people for reasons. The movie sets up like why he would be mad at a very specific person back in ancient times. Does not explain at all why he's like, oh, I'm just gonna kill everybody now. That's my thing. I'm pissed off. I need to hover all the time as a power move. He has no personality. He has no like real interest or anything going on. I think it's both an example of The Rock trying to want to be an anti-hero, but also not stretching it far enough to make this character interesting or flawed enough to be very compelling. Like there's just not much going on in this movie, and specifically around The Rock's performance. I've talked about like, I think he's just a very boring movie star right now because he's always playing it safe in almost all of his movies now. Certainly 2010 era Rock and thereafter, right? You know, post maybe Fast Five. His movies, he just wants to be the 4-quadrant guy. He wants to be the guy that pleases everybody at all times, to the detriment of actually making entertaining movies. Was it Skyscraper?
Yes.
The one, The Rock versus the Big Building. It's things like that. It's always about The Rock saving his family, being the Boy Scout, and it's being very like.
But that's not what this movie is.
That's not what this movie is.
Yeah.
That's not what this movie is.
I would argue this takes the most chances. This is The Rock taking the most chances he has in a while.
It's taking chances, but also it doesn't go far enough. Like just glowering basically and being angry and killing people, I don't think is enough to be interesting because there's nothing behind it.
What I'll give you is that I don't find the Rock's journey or the character Teth Adams' journey as rendered in the movie particularly compelling. Right? Like he spends most of the movie, like 80% of the movie, in one mode, and there are reasons for that we'll discuss in spoilers. But yeah, I do think I give him a little bit more credit than kind of your. I agree with you. His career has largely been pretty boring. San Andreas, Skyscraper, like all these are basically the same movie. We're far away from the Dwayne Johnson that played Boxer Santoros in the Richard Kelly movie Southland Tales. You know, that's like a risky
even something
role.
Like the Rundown, right? Like a nice, easy breezy action movie where he gets to be like a fun, quippy action star, but has like rough edges to him. The other thing is I don't think this movie is really doing anything interesting because it's introducing a whole new set of DC superheroes, and it's hard to look at these new people coming in and be like, guys, I mean, you just look like B-grade Marvel people right now. Like, even though you were probably introduced earlier in the timeline of the comics, whatever, you got another guy with wings, you've got another wizardy doctor man with magic powers. I actually think those other characters, freaking Pierce Brosnan in this, Aldous Hodge, I think the people around Black Adam could be interesting. Like, this could be a really interesting movie. The other thing is, this is a movie set in the Shazam corner of the DC universe, and they say Shazam several times, right? Like the character who gave Shazam his powers is here in this movie giving Black Adam his powers, but no Shazam. No Shazam to be found. There was other people, but it seems very weird that The Rock didn't want to even share like that specific angle of what's happening, because you could easily do some sort of team up or something more interesting. I feel like centering this movie around Black Adam is probably the biggest failure because he's the least interesting person in this movie.
Yeah, I think there's actually a strong case to be made that this movie should have been called The Justice Society or something like that. Sure. You know, but anyway, Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on Black Adam?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on Black Adam are best summed up in the form of a limerick. 15 years later, sorry, hang on, wrong, I messed that up. 15 years later, they had him in the role of the hero Black Adam. and the final product undoubtedly sucks, but somehow I can't stay mad at him.
Wow.
I still love The Rock. What are you going to do? And here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. We talked about this a little.
So Ryan's prophecy came true from the email.
No, it's in. What are you talking about? No, the movie sucks. The movie sucks.
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
defending
You
the
still like
movie.
The Rock. Yeah.
I'm saying.
I see.
I'm saying that we talked about this a little on my show DLC on our bonus Patreon content. If you look at the Rock's filmography and you take out the Fast franchise, he makes terrible movies, and yet I still love him. Him being in a movie is a plus for me. I mean, I'm an old wrestling fan from way back, but so I have some affection for the persona that he created in the WWE, and maybe that colors my opinion of him. But it's weird to me that he seems to be sort of Teflon in his track record is not worthy of his level of appeal. Like he makes bad movies.
But there's a difference in those movies.
Okay, I can't believe you guys are freaking putting me in this position. How dare you? How dare you? But I'm gonna make the case for The Rock. Okay. Obviously, super jacked, charismatic, very fit person. Here are some of the movies that I think are legit great that The Rock has been involved in.
Wow,
yes.
Great.
Okay, not okay. Maybe great's too strong a word. But good.
Good.
Jumanji, really fun.
I never
Really
Sure.
a blast.
Wait, you didn't see Jumanji, Jeff?
I didn't see Jumanji.
The one about video games?
Yeah, I never got around to it.
Yeah, you would like that. You would like that.
Jumanji 1 was really fun. Jumanji 2, okay, still good, but not great. But yeah, a couple of really fun movies, and The Rock is great in them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Pain and Gain, 2013. Probably one of Michael Bay's best movies. Probably The Rock's best performance.
It's definitely Michael Bay's best movie, but yeah.
Yeah, one of them. I still prefer The Rock personally, but Pain and Gain, awesome. That was 2013. Moana. A lot of people people hating on The Rock singing in that movie, but okay.
That doesn't count. That's not a Rock movie.
Yeah.
It's not a Rock movie. He's great. He's great in Moana. Great. But it's not a Rock movie. It's not a Dwayne Johnson movie. It's a Disney Pixar animated movie that features his voice.
And that's all I got.
No,
exactly.
No. My thing is the early, certainly 2000 era's Rock. The Rock where he was struggling to get out of, the wrestling viewpoint. Like he didn't just want to be the heel as a wrestler. I think The Rundown, which is a 2003 movie directed by Peter Berg. Yeah. It's fun. It is a fun, like lean and mean action movie. Like that was a movie where he had to try. He had to try to be interesting. Southland Tales, I think, is an interesting experiment.
That's not a Rock movie.
But he is fun in it. Certainly agree with Pain and Gain. The other one is The Other Guys, where he is really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's forgotten about that.
But
movie.
like 20, he's in like 10 minutes of that movie.
Side character.
Character.
I'm saying San Andreas, Rampage, Skyscraper,
all the later
Doom,
Rock movies. Yes.
It just the list goes on and on and on of the ones that are him centric and are just. And yet, my point is, I still love The Rock. And I'm still going to go see his movies. I don't know. It's like fool me once. Continue fooling me, The Rock. Continue fooling me. And so let me just talk a little bit about what I think about this movie.
Sure.
Which is, I saw a great headline. I can't remember who I should attribute it to, but I saw a great headline that said Black Adam is a movie for children that teaches them that murdering people is the best thing you can do.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate, I don't understand so much about this movie, but let me start with the things I liked. I think the humor in this movie, though it is few and far between, almost always worked for me. Anytime the movie dared to be funny or have a quip, I liked it. There's a few moments where The Rock gets to make, like Black Adam don't understand type jokes, and they
is
all
he the
worked.
Terminator for some reason? Like, he is a robot who doesn't understand that killing people is bad. Very weird.
Well, I mean, I think we're supposed to think that his culture was so brutal that's just, he doesn't understand these modern times where there's human rights,
I don't know, especially given the backstory we see. Like there were definitely people arguing for other things, but yeah.
But I will say, I think all of the moments where it dared to be humorous, the movie as a whole, not just his moments,
Mo
but
Amer
the whole movie,
is great.
And I wish it had leaned into that a bit more because I think it genuinely worked. I think Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate is inspired and awesome. Dr. Fate is an amazing character in the DC comics. I love that they put him in this movie. The costume is perfect. It looks great. He looks great. Pierce Brosnan is great. It's great.
The visuals of his powers look really cool too. Like they do some good work there. Yeah.
Now, that's the end of my list of what's good.
Can I add to the list actually before you go on?
Yes.
I really like the use of slow motion in the movie. It really is very similar to like Zack Snyder stuff.
Sure.
Speed ramping and stuff. But you know, Zack Snyder, say what you will about the tenets of Zack Snyder, but one of the things he did in his movies was he treated these characters like gods, right?
Sure.
And it's like he uses like the cinematic image like people use huge murals like of years past where like these people are clashing and there's lightning everywhere and we're seeing how powerful they are, and you really get to appreciate that with the slow motion. I much prefer slow motion to it's all jumbled and you can't see anything that's going on. And so most of the action was pretty comprehensible, and a lot of it was because of the slow motion. And I like that slow motion stuff, and some of the action scenes.
I wouldn't say just because of the slow motion. Like you're probably going to go on to say this, but the action scenes are actually like well framed.
And mostly pretty pretty comprehensible. Yeah,
the thing where he wakes up basically and just like lays waste to all the soldiers there.
Yeah,
is like looks good, and actually brings in some good use of like background CG, the way he's flying around and just tearing people apart. Like this is it's a Jaume Collet-Serra movie, and I think this guy, he can be talented when he's not like making some really bad Liam Neeson movie sometimes, but he has clearly he has a good visual sensibility, and yet that still came through even though a lot of this movie just didn't feel super compelling.
I disagree about the action sequences. I found them to be pretty banal and uninteresting and uninspired. And here you have a guy who's massive, who has a history of live action performance. I take any moment from any of his appearances in the Fast franchise where he like actually is, beating up people. I think it's more interesting. But anyway, it's also interesting to see. I know I'm a Marvel zombie from way back. I know that I'm not objective in this perspective. I do care about the Marvel characters more than the DC characters, but I'm rooting for DC. I'm rooting for these characters. I want them to do something resembling anything cinematically. But it just feels so desperate and sad when they cobble together this Justice Society in this movie. You look at how Marvel would have done it. Each of these characters would have been seeded in their own TV series or other movie, and here we like are introduced to characters. We're supposed to care about this team.
Another
it's
Justice
so
League,
rushed.
Basically like the B team.
But it's all we have to understand who they are, what their powers are, how they fit in, care about them, all in the context of somebody else's movie. It's all so rushed and so squandered and so flat and uninteresting. Even with a character like Dr. Fate, who's awesome.
It's the worst tendencies of the DC universe, basically.
Yes, the movie is a massive disappointment on pretty much every level. It feels like it feels like a 90s superhero movie made with now technology. It just doesn't understand what it's there to do. It's just providing you flash that is hollow. Like the level of money and spectacle that is being sprayed across the screen at any given moment should at least elicit some of that dopamine. But I was just completely like, when is this over?
There's an opening sequence where it's basically like a Tomb Raider thing where they're after some sort of artifact and they just walk in, guys. They just, hey, look at that sign. That sign looks like it's leading to the artifact. Let's go. Oh, it's the artifact floating in the air. I'm gonna do a Mario Brothers jump and get the artifact. That's it. That's the adventuring we're gonna do at the beginning of this movie.
I can't really disagree with anything you guys are saying. I didn't think the movie was very good. I think I like the action more than you, Jeff. I thought there's some cool moments of the action. But what else did I like? Oh yeah, I do think this is The Rock taking a bit of a chance.
That's true.
I do think he is mostly an unpleasant person for most of the movie. And I do think that like that's a departure from how he usually behaves.
I don't know if that's the chance we were looking for. Like, yes, he's doing bad things, but he basically is like never tapping into the one aspect we all kind of like about The Rock, like his charisma, right? Like, what if I'm just not charismatic? I don't know if that's the big risk. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't agree. Like, I think that people, if he was his same old self, we'd be complaining that he's the same old self. I think like he's trying to do something very different than what he's done before. And this is the thing. This is the thing that people say like Will Smith too when he plays like an unpleasant person in a movie. People are like, why aren't we leaning on that Will Smith charisma? And it's like, well, he wanted to try something different. He wanted to try something different, and I think he wanted to try something different. The problem with this movie is the messages are all incredibly jumbled. Like, what is the movie trying to say about imperialism, or colonialism?
Heroes.
It's completely incomprehensible in my opinion. And also the big problem that Jeff alluded to is it makes cruelty and murder look cool. Like, is kind of what I think this movie does, which is, yes, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a bad guy at the beginning of the film, and his journey is very fitfully to become like not as bad of a guy. But for most of the movie, he is cruelly he's cruelly killing all these guys, sometimes in self-defense, but sometimes he's provoking it. Mm-hmm. And it makes the killing look really, really cool. Yeah. And this is the first time I can remember seeing like really a lot of cruelty in a superhero film, where like some of these people are like literally begging for their lives, and then he's just like, bloop, I'm like killing this guy. And I was just like, wow, like I haven't seen cruelty in a while in super like that I can recall in superhero films.
We see a guy vaporize. We see a skeleton, and we see a skull, and his body gets vaporized. The whole thing about like I don't think it's that much of a risk is that these are all bad guys. Like, these are all guys who have sold their souls.
I'm saying in the context of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's career, it's a risk. You know what I'm saying? But yes, I agree. In the movie, it doesn't make for a particularly interesting story.
I don't.
For sure.
Yeah, like, I don't much care about their fates. It's more like the movie doesn't. Yeah, you're right that it's muddled. Like, it doesn't want to know, do we want to save these guys? Why do we want to save these guys? Why is the Justice Society coming here now after this country has been, under the thumb of this weird private military, corporation forever? Like, there's so many things.
We're rooting for Black Adam in some ways because he's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and he's the main character of the movie, even though he's doing lots of terrible things. We're also theoretically rooting for Justice Society because they're cool, kind of, but they also represent America and Amanda Waller, who's done a lot of terrible things, so it's like, okay. And then, so I think, the movie has no real discernible message as far as I can tell. And that's a shame. It's just trying to do a little bit too much. Yeah. So, didn't like the movie. There are some things I liked about the movie. Let's talk about spoilers. Black Adam spoilers starting now.
Don't teach my child violence, Black Adam. Now go do violence all over the place. That's all. That's all we're looking for.
So
he explicitly says the theme. It's not even about the bad guys he's killing or not killing. It's him like not understanding why murder isn't the first reaction.
I mean, the movie's original sin is it conceals the true identity of Black Adam as relates to the earlier flashbacks. Like, my understanding, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but
you didn't recognize Dwayne Johnson in that first scene?
No, because he's on a different body. They Captain America. They Captain America'd him.
No, that first scene, I was like, that's The Rock's head. The back of The Rock's head, obviously.
I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with the back of The Rock's
head. Jeff has spent many hours staring at the back of The Rock's head. Okay,
yes.
I think about his entire back.
So smooth, so smooth.
So they conceal his identity because they make you think he's the kid.
Yeah,
but in fact, he.
And you're
is
like,
the
why
father
is the
of
kid such a dick? Basically, for most of this movie.
Yeah. But he is in fact the father, and then
that did not play as a reveal to me at all. It's so funny.
Yeah, but that does like explain a lot more of his actions when that is revealed. It's like, oh, he is upset because his family's been slaughtered, and like that's why he's just killing everyone, and that makes a lot more sense. But then it makes most of the movie he's kind of inscrutable. Like, why is he? Why does he want to murder everyone
to me,
in such a way? Right?
It's still very much inscrutable. It's like, okay, I understand why you were mad and killed the king and everybody there. This is 5,000 years later, buddy. Like, what's up your craw now? Like, what is your deal that you have to just go around like I don't. It's like he doesn't understand basic morality or anything too, which is I got very much
Or
Terminator
Doors.
2 vibes. Doors, you
Yeah.
know. Sarcasm.
I do have a bone to pick with you, Devindra. Like
Yes.
you brought up more than once, like, why is he hovering all the time? If you could hover,
Yeah.
wouldn't you hover all the time?
I know, it was cool. He's hovering all the time. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I
wouldn't walk if
I
I
would
was
hover all the
Superman. No,
Walking
no,
is for
Would you look like
chumps.
The Rock? I think it is a performative power move. Like that's what I think.
Yeah.
It feels like that's all. That's all this movie is. It's a performative power move by executive producer Dwayne Johnson, starring Dwayne Johnson. Oh, he's taking chances. He's killing people. They're all bad. They're all villains. That's not a big chance, guys. Give me some actual moral complexity. Have him kill somebody in the Justice Society or something, like some actual consequences. Yeah.
Speaking of well, you mentioned Fate in the Justice Society. I will say Cyclone, really cool, kind of visual idea. Of
I don't understand her powers, but yeah,
she's like, okay,
slow-mo's wind.
There's the guy who's like Falcon from the Avengers,
Yes.
who's like,
but rich,
it's literally
Falcon, but rich. Yeah.
It's
It's
Falcon
Batman.
but rich. It's literally a black dude with mechanical wings,
Yes.
so it's the same thing. And then Fate is like Doctor Strange, and then Atom Smasher's like Ant-Man, and then Cyclone's like Storm. Is kind of what I could tell, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought
These are
Cyclone
so
like
reductive.
the way that she kind of did her stuff was like really cool, like dancing with the
Yes.
wind and everything was kind of cool.
I think the
that.
slow-mo effects of her stuff look cool. I didn't understand the effect of her power. Like the first thing was I summon you, Rebar. Let's this super powerful god from 5,000 years ago. Rebar. I need all the rebar. Surround this man. Clearly you will stop him. Yes.
I
Can we
thought all
talk
the
about
powers
how-
were poorly defined. Like
Yeah,
Fate's powers, he can like
Yeah.
tell the future, but he can also replicate himself. But he's basically like all-purpose power guy.
All-purpose,
I don't
yeah,
know if that's the
yeah.
case in the comics as well. But Jeff,
I mean,
what were you gonna say?
he's pretty powerful in the
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how the entire third act of this is indistinguishable from Justice League? That literally
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing. There's a demon guy, and the Batman character, the Flash character, all of the Justice Enter the Blank characters without Superman.
Yep.
Or in this case, Black Adam, are doing their best against the demon, and all we have to do is resurrect the uber-powered Superman guy, and we'll beat it's
the
beat
same
for
thing.
beat the exact movie.
I
was falling
watched a
asleep by
movie
that
this
point.
weekend.
Yeah.
I watched a movie where an organization entitled Justice something had to face off against a demon with massive horns and resurrect a uber powerful. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's
You get
literally the same beats of the movie, and it
yeah,
didn't work in Justice League. Like it
And also-
wasn't good then.
That was even partially done in Wonder Woman 1. Don't forget, like where we basically got Ares back as a giant CG monster too. It's the DC movies. That's all they do, basically. Yeah, unless you're Shazam or Aquaman.
I do think it was kind of an interesting head fake where they put the guy underground. He can never say the word Shazam again. I'm like, oh, maybe this is where the movie's ending. But then I remembered Fate. He had those like predictions of the future, and it's like we haven't seen those happen yet. So there's a whole other act to this movie.
I was very depressed because I too was like, maybe this is the merciful end of this movie, and I was like, oh no, god damn it,
No.
The
we're
problem,
not setting up for a sequel. We're literally doing more movie now.
Well, one of the biggest problems with this movie is like Black Adam doesn't have any discernible weaknesses other than I guess unobtainium,
His
right?
kryptonite.
His kryptonite.
Eternium, right? Eternium. But even that, like he got hit with Eternium, and then he like kind of like self fixed himself, and that was so. I was like, is he actually vulnerable to Eternium? I don't know. But you see the Justice Society like send wave after wave of their own people against him, and it has no effect. So what is the point of any of this? Like, why are we doing this? And then, like, the Justice Society basically accomplishes virtually nothing throughout the entire movie. They can't stop Black Adam. There's the guy Sabak at the end. Cool idea, by the way, where Sabak needs to like die before he can be resurrected. I like that.
It's the dumbest reveal ever where they're like, wait, look at the visage in the mirror. That's not how mirrors work. The mirror doesn't change the order of the words.
Well, maybe it does in that. Well, maybe
in that
it does
fictional
in that
language.
I don't even know if it's fictional. So just let's.
Isn't it? It's not a fictional place. Maybe I'm.
Oh, the
mistaking.
location is
place is
fictional, but I'm not sure if the
fictional.
language is. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
So let's not jump to that conclusion. But I agree with you. The reveal is very silly. He like comes alive in his body bag, right? But yeah, and then they're basically Justice Society's whole thing is they're able to hold down Sabak for like 10 seconds while Dwayne The Rock Johnson rips him in half. That's kind of their net contribution to this film, as far as I can recall. Which is like, even if it was a Justice Society movie, like that's a pretty weak way to introduce the Justice Society, I think. So
this should have been some sort of like HBO Max series, maybe to introduce these folks. Like I think the way Doom Patrol spends a lot of time with its characters and makes you actually care about them, I think the Justice Society could be cool. The actors are good, the characters are interesting. It's the whole Black Adam thing that is kind of like messing up that whole storyline. Yeah.
All right, folks, got to talk about the ending.
Sure.
The mid-credit sequence. Amanda Waller comes via holo message and says, "Don't leave the border of Kontok."
She FaceTimed this entire movie. Yeah.
She really did. I wonder how much she got paid to FaceTime.
Every time I see Viola Davis in one of these movies, I'm like, I hope she got a new addition to her house.
I hope so.
She's like on the set of Woman King, you know.
Yeah. She's
it's like, just hang on a second, guys. Give me 1 second. I gotta film a DC superhero movie real quick.
Yeah. I mean, she's one of our great actors of our generation. Like,
she's amazing.
She deserves everything she gets. Kondak is the name of the place. Sorry. And so anyway, she's like, "Don't leave Kondak." And he's like, "What are you gonna do? Nothing on this earth can stop me." And she's like, "I know people not of this earth." Superman shows up. Which is not a surprise because we've seen Superman various points. Like he was in Shazam.
Well, it was not.
It was not Henry Cavill.
It was the suit.
It was the suit.
Yeah.
But so the shock is Henry Cavill, a guy who I think many of us thought would never be Superman again, shows up as Superman, and he says basically the same exact line that Michael Keaton says at the end of Morbius, in the post-credit sequence of Morbius.
Only you would know that.
It's Morbin time?
He's like, "Hey, we should talk," which is like the least amount of effort. Like, I love seeing Henry
most non-committal sentence of all time.
Yeah.
No promise. We're making no promises here.
Yeah.
I would like to schedule a coffee date.
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
How is your schedule? Next Wednesday. Oh, you're busy then. Sorry.
That's like what you say to your friends where you're like, we should totally get together.
Yeah, we should totally get together and then never see them again. Yeah. That is what Superman does in this movie. But I am curious.
Dude, that scene was the best part of the entire film. That scene.
Yeah.
There's something about
and we talked about this recently, but he achieved by the power of the Rock, right?
Yeah.
Only The Rock.
Only
the Rock provides.
Yeah.
Is what my understanding.
So
DC stands for Dwayne Controls. You know.
What did you you guys have an audience reaction to this scene?
I was halfway out of the theater. I was just like,
I saw it with a bunch of press, so no. But I mean, the woman next to me was kind of gleefully moving in her seat.
I saw it at a public screening, and one person in the back said, "Woo!" So that was my public reaction to it. But,
I mean, it's the coolest moment in the movie because all of a sudden somebody we actually care about is there, and the implication is, oh, this person actually. You just went on, Dave, saying how there's no weakness for Black Adam. Well, it feels like, oh, here's the only other character that could stand toe to toe with this character. Boy, that would be fun to see. All right, good night, everybody.
I guess that would make a good movie, huh? Anyway, here's the credits, folks. Yeah.
Bye. Yeah. So, okay.
There is going to be another Superman movie too, right? So that's a whole thing. Brandon,
it's in development, so who knows?
They confirmed that. And
I am excited to see Henry Cavill as Superman again. Like he is a good Superman, right?
He deserves a good Superman.
He deserves
movie,
a good Superman,
good one. And the score riff in that sequence was more the John Williams one, wasn't it?
Incredible.
I was not happy with that. I was not. I was like, you get that score out your mouth.
This is a vibe shift. I'm signaling a vibe shift. Okay.
How dare you put that score in your movie, Black Adam?
No more of this Hans Zimmer shit. Going back to John Williams. Yeah.
You know, guys, I was so filled with rage in that moment. Like, I don't even think I fully processed it until this moment on the podcast.
That is what I was internally clapping. It's like, oh, does this, are we going back to a more pure Superman vibe and not the, one who wants to give up on humanity vibe? Yeah.
I think for me, like, the Superman theme by John Williams is like a holy thing.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
you only use it when you are doing something holy.
Like Superman
A,
Returns.
not in a movie called Black Adam. B,
like a
not
mid-credit sequence
not
in
a
a
mid-credit
rock movie?
sequence that apparently no work was put into. Pretty much, you know.
You know, something holy like
Superman,
that 4 seconds
Superman
of
4,
movie
like
in
Superman
between.
4, for instance.
Well, the Superman Returns opens with the whole theme, like
Superman: The Quest for Peace.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can only use the theme for something amazing like Superman:
Right.
Quest for Peace. So, but in all seriousness, I hate them for using it, and I wasn't a huge fan. I'm glad you were excited though, Devindra.
I mean, it's and the story behind it. The Rock basically went over the studio head. People were telling him, no, you're not going to get, you know, what's his face back in for this, and he made it happen with the sheer power of his rockness. So,
Well,
Yeah, man.
a couple things. First of all, yeah, my understanding is they filmed it on like the last day. They were in the throne room, you know, and they're like, "Hey, let's just film a thing." And they actually tried to do it without Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Like they tried to do it with just a suit, you know, and they're like, "It's going
no
well,
impact.
but like we
No
need to get
impact.
We need to get Henry Cavill at the test screenings." So then they got Henry Cavill, and it was great.
he needs a break from building PCs. You know, like he's just so bored.
But here's the thing, Devindra, I don't know if you've heard, but the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is changing, and
I
that's
hear it's
how
shifted. Yeah.
that's how he's able to get Henry Cavill in the movie. So,
But also, like,
Anyway.
is this creative power? Like this, I don't know, because as we've discussed, there is no like real creative lead. I guess dealing with the overall architecture of these movies or anything. Who knows what's going to happen at this point? Yeah.
All right, folks. Any other thoughts on Black Adam, a movie that it didn't sound like any of us really liked?
No.
Well, guys, despite literally every single thing we have just said, it's still pretty impressive that Guillaume Collet-Serra made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.